Here is some info and tasting notes on the Glenfiddich IPA Experimental Edition. So this was part of the experimental range that they released. This is what they call the IPA experiment. So this basically involved them being Brian Kinsman, the malt master at Glenfiddich, as well as the Speyside Cooperage, collaborating on a project. So they went and took some of their whiskey and they aged it in their American oak casks. As they do, they used some of those American oak casks to send to the Speyside Cooperage, where they made beer that they used to season those casks. They left it inside those casks inside of a storage container for about a month and then sent them back to the distillery to finish the whiskey off and afterwards before bottling it. So it posed a couple challenges for them, because they figured out that seasoning a beer with a whiskey cask is quite easy because it absorbs quite a lot of that intense flavor quite well, whereas doing it the other way around, they really had to ramp the beer up in order to be able to get enough flavor into the wood to be able to transfer it into that whiskey. So what they did is they created an incredibly strong, they reckon it's probably up near about a quadruple IPA, so 4 times the intensity of a normal IPA. So very, very heavy on the hops. It came out at about 9%. It was their second brew batch that they did that they decided was the one, so they called it Brew 2. I've actually tasted it before, and if you're an IPA fan, it's a great beer to try. So yeah, they ended up using that and essentially trying to force a lot of that beer flavor back into the whiskey through that method. So if you have a go on this whiskey, you'll see that the color profile, a little bit darker than a standard American oak cask finish, but nothing too crazy. If you have a go on the nose, you're going to get a lot more of the floral side. You're going to get like hops, you're going to get a touch of honeyed sweetness, but quite nice, a pleasant aroma, very soft, and like I say, quite a nice floral, and a little bit of that kind of hoppiness coming through. On the palate is the other side around, so you suddenly start getting kind of like a toffee baked apple vibe, but also a lot of the spicy side of the IPA coming through. So you're looking at coriander, maybe a bit of white pepper, so kind of a tale of two sides. Probably not as overly hoppy as you would expect. I know that if you're for me initially it wasn't a complete kind of IPA overblow, but I think it's done quite well. It's kind of rounded together quite nicely, and quite a complex idea in practice that's integrated quite well into the whiskey. So I hope you enjoy the Glenfiddich IPA experiment.